to Yell, Fight, Sooie, college football from three friendly-ish rivals.
Good morning. It's week 11 in college football, and there's a decided shade of purple on the horizon for two of our teams on Saturday. It's enough to make one Prince Nelson Rogers sing about what he wants to do to Apollonia in the steamy Minnesota rain. Let's all take a moment to think about that. That's James.
I have a funny story about Prince dying. I'll get to it when you introduce me. It's funny.
Okay, well, I'm introducing you right now. That's Just Speaking is James Christopher repping his beloved Longhorns of the University of Texas. On another part of the screen, we have Scott McIntyre, as always, wearing the colors and ready to call the Hogs for the University of Arkansas.
And also wearing the Weird Al original T-shirt for the movie. And it ties in because Prince was the one artist that would never let Weird Al do a cover. So that's what I got. That's your Apollonia right there. I got your Apollonia, big boy.
You've just ruined Apollonia for most people who grew up watching that movie. Special guest today, Brian Arbor, representing the Bayou Bengal Tigers of the Louisiana State University Technical Institute. And I am Andy Tomchesson, a man who knows college baseball season is 98 days away. This is Yell, Fight, Sooie. Gentlemen, let's talk about the week that was real quick. Scott, we'll start with you. What happened with Hugh Freeze visiting Fayetteville?
I don't remember. No, here's what I remember. I remember when we did the first show and we're doing our season preview and I get to Liberty and all you guys start chuckling and I'm like, no. And Andy tells Jim, you don't understand. In the SEC, we take all of our everybody. There's a reason, blah blah blah, and this is what we do. And Jim's like, yeah, okay. That's exactly what it meant. That is exactly what I meant. Hugh Freeze.
To be fair, though, Scott, it's a lot of coaches' kids. They're really playing hard.
Gym rats.
Yeah, I got two things to say here. Number one, kudos to Hugh Freeze for talking to Jerry Falwell Jr. and having a burner phone so he still can keep his job over at Liberty. If you would have learned that in Oxford, you'd still be there, Hugh. However, in all seriousness, you give Hugh Freeze a bye week, and he's a talented coach. And look, man, we got outplayed and we got outcoached by an inferior team. And OG, never seen that before as a Razorback fan. So these are just things that you learn to, you are used to taking the punch about right here. So after a while, it's just like, oh, okay, it's another one of those punches. That's fantastic. Yeah, it was great. That's great fun, but it's okay. It's going to play in for the week coming. I'm all for it.
Before Scott commits Harry Carey, let's move to Jim.
Why would I commit Harry Carey?
On Saturday, the Astros won the World Series. I'm not aware of any other sporting events that occurred. I will say that I was trying to do my nervous watch thing, and which meant looking at the Longhorn game, but watching them almost give up a second half lead again. I had nowhere to turn, but I'm feeling good. It's already a successful season in my mind because we talked about progression and getting better, and recruiting classes right now, top 5 at least. So feeling good and feeling mostly good because the Astros won the World Series on Saturday, and I haven't quit giving up on that moment of just pure elation.
I mean, I think that's fair. And I will say, I think you missed probably a pretty good game against Kansas State, or at least watching it through one eye off the side screen, because Texas did what we were worried they wouldn't be able to do. They won on the road in a hostile environment, beat a well-coached team. Yeah, they struggled a little bit in the second half, which is still kind of a hallmark of Steve Sarkisian's Texas teams, but they pulled it out. So I think that's definitely a step in the right direction, wouldn't you say?
I definitely do. And I think, pulling it out is definitely a key strategy you need to have in Texas these days politically. So I think he definitely was a good example for the rest of the state.
We hit the whole spectrum here on election week. In a land where we don't know who's controlling Congress and for 2023, I think that's a fine segue to A&M versus the flu. The flu 19, A&M 0. A&M lost again, 5th time in a row. We had 19 people out of our 2 deep out of the game with either flu or injury. It's just a recipe for disaster. Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. And yet Jimbo Fisher will still be our coach next year. So not much to say about that other than we're playing playing next week or this week for the bottom of the SEC West against Auburn, and I don't feel good about the results. So let's move forward because we do have a special guest here in Brian Arbor, because the big game this week, I guess there's two big games this week, but let's start with Arkansas versus LSU. And we'll start with Brian because you are our guest and we do treat our guests well, I think.
You're our first guest though, Brian, so we're figuring it out.
Yeah. But by definition, that means however we treat him, it's well.
Right.
And also
better than the last guy.
It's true.
Exactly. So Brian, give us a little rundown of what's been going on in Baton Rouge this season.
All right. So I don't know if, because James was paying attention to the World Series, and I had that on my main screen on Saturday night. But on my alternate screen, I had a small contest between LSU playing a small directional school from Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa as part of the slate here. And Andy, I don't know if you know this, but you can design useful plays when you have one play to win the game against that team from the 3-yard line.
No,
that's
not possible.
Thing you can do. And LSU did this. They ran the rub route. Alabama didn't cover it. And, I got when I checked my phone the next day, got lots of pictures from relatives from the field in Baton Rouge. So, year one of Brian Kelly, they beat Bama. Technically, we're alive for the playoff. So, what else can I tell you?
When you had photos from family from the field, it's weird. It's a real weird conundrum for me because I know you well now, and you're really one of the brightest, smartest guys I know. But how many pairs of shoes did you have going on amongst your family members from the field? I'm betting 50% at least.
Throwing shoes is an essential component of winning ridiculous games at LSU. So we are happy to make that part of it. But oddly, this wasn't a ridiculous throw a shoe, kick a 57-yard field goal through a mustard cloud game. This wasn't Les Miles is apparently either a wizard or has traded his soul for something improbable. This was kind of what we've seen a lot from LSU this year, which is the coaching staff is really good at making adjustments. They played much better in the second half than in the first half. They were able to come back. And again, Brian Kelly made what turned out to be a really good decision. I'm going to go for 2 rather than try to keep playing against Bama, who's a slightly better team than us, and called the right play. Got it in, and hey, field rush.
Brian, this is a hard-hitting college football show, so we only really talk about the really deep, meaningful topics. When did Brian Kelly stop talking like Foghorn Leghorn this season?
No one cares anymore in Baton Rouge.
That's the right answer. That's the most honest
answer. That's what a win against Alabama will get you.
He can do whatever. He beat Bama. He is, he is going to be, he's going to wear the Colonel Sanders gear, I think, this Saturday against Arkansas. No one's going to care.
And they just went to a coach like this who talk like Ed Orgeron. They don't get Brian Kelly now. He can be understood. Have the guy down there whenever they talk to go Tiger.
Get some of that Tiger blood.
Everything going there. We're going to Fayetteville. We're going to play a football game.
There are cultural fit issues like Brian Kelly's the child of a Massachusetts politician. And so we're learning that Louisiana politicians just admit publicly they're having affairs as opposed to burying their mistresses like Teddy's guys did back in Massachusetts. It has been an adjustment for him. But, he's getting there.
Is it a burial when you drive the car off the bridge?
I think it's still burial by sea, my brother.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if...
just quit it. Chappa, quit it. Quit it.
We got you. Thank you, history major. So the other side of this, what I guess is a rivalry, and I will say this from the outside, it always felt artificial, and I know the Arkansas fans feel a little bit differently. When Arkansas joined the SEC, geographically, they were kind of married to LSU, and that was going to be the rivalry. And I don't know that it ever really took off outside of those two fan bases. So, Scott, what's your take on playing LSU? How big is this for your coaching staff, your players? KJ Jefferson is a senior going out.
He's a junior.
He's not coming back.
The NFL ain't going to take him yet. Did you watch last week? He's not going to the NFL. He's coming back.
He looks like a prototypical NFL tight end to me.
well, I think he wants to be a quarterback though. No, KJ Jefferson.
I wanted to win the Powerball this week too, Scott, and then I'm still here. So let's talk about the rivalry.
I'll put it this way: there's a better chance of KJ Jefferson coming back than there is of Jimbo Fisher coming back.
I
will say
I got 86 million reasons why Jimbo Fisher is coming back.
I thought it was 95. At least it's gone down some.
I assure if you give KJ Jefferson an $86 million NIL deal, he'll be back next year.
Well, that's true. That's true. No, KJ's redshirt junior, but I to be honest, the COVID year throws everything off because that year didn't count. Had the redshirt year, so he's going to be older than Hendon Hooker probably by the time he leaves Fayetteville, and Hendon Hooker's about ready to sign up for Social Security. But I think for Arkansas fans coming into this week, LSU is a rival because when we came into the SEC, everybody else had everything established. We were playing out. They put LSU on our schedule at the end of the year, and a couple of businessmen from Arkansas and a couple of guys from LSU got together and said, "Ooh, look, if we put our two states together and make it gold, it looks like a boot. We'll make a trophy and call it the boot." And so for Brian Kelly, he thinks that's what it's a boot. But he's not all the way from Canada. He's just almost that far north. But they do give us the boot. But now they gave us the boot from the boot so they could put you guys together the day after Thanksgiving or that weekend. And they gave us Missouri, which, okay, fine. But that ain't a rivalry. It's a manufacturer.
Don't worry, Scott. It's coming back because A&M's not rival is joining the conference. And I'm sure they, won't be.
I know we're going to get later on to the show in schools that are not our rival, but we never cannot consider A&M a rival. Now, when we get to TCU,
you do have an online fan base who likes to pretend that there's no rivalry between Texas and Texas A&M. I will say, having a few connections and understanding how the schedule is going to work, we are not willing or wanting to move off of LSU being our end of year game. Texas will be played every year. Texas A&M will be played every year, but it's not going to be a fixed day after Thanksgiving game again.
So I would not be surprised to be. I mean, Texas Oklahoma is still going to be the big rivalry because they're coming over together because they can't come up with $80 million.
Because they pour, as we learned 2 weeks ago. They bow.
They can't even buy out Jimbo Fisher.
They can't even buy out Jimbo Fisher. Of course, A&M can't either. No, but
I think A&M can. I don't think they're willing to.
Well, yeah. I think that as we look to this week, as in all honesty, as an Arkansas fan, if everything is in the Razorbacks' favor this weekend, we lost a game we should have won last week. The coaching staff took it on themselves. Sam Pittman said, "Haven't lost a game like this. I got out coached. This one's on me." And put it on his shoulders. You want a leader like that. In a time when everybody wants to blame others for their problems, you want a guy that says, "Buck stops here." So I think there's accountability within the team. Number two, KJ Jefferson was running a fever last week, and he did have the flu. He did not practice with the team. They had no clue whether he or Malik Hornsby was going to be starting the game, and that didn't come out till after the game. So you can chalk that in. But the game's at 11. It's daytime. Everything that could be for us. LSU had this big win with Bama last week. They've got national championship hopes back in Baton Rouge. So there's everything. All the intangibles are in Arkansas's favor this weekend. And historically, even when LSU became the first team to win the national championship with 2 losses, Arkansas was one of the teams that put that loss on there when DMAC ran crazy back in the day. So as an Arkansas fan, I look at this game going, we have every chance in the world to come out with a win against LSU. LSU has definitely gotten better throughout the year, but all it takes is one hiccup, and we hope to be that hiccup.
So, A, Derek McFadden's not playing this weekend. B,
correct.
Brian, to you, is LSU consistent enough to build off a win against Alabama, the emotional high of that, and then come in and face a team in Arkansas beat up, not having the season they hope to have, but still a tough out?
Scott's absolutely right that this is a trap game for LSU. The intangibles all go against them, but the tangibles are that, well, LSU recruits a lot better than Arkansas. They've got a lot better players at, pretty much every position. Particularly, they've got this really awesome defensive line that, they'll be able to sack KJ Jefferson as opposed to last week where they just, force Bryce Young to run around and make crazy plays, which Bryce Young can do and not many other players can do. So, I think that's the big difference in the game is that LSU, it's not the right mental attitude you want to have for this game. They never have a good mental attitude for this game because it's the week after Bama, and there are years they've let Bama beat them twice, and they can't fully and totally, I think, out talent them like they could have, like they did in 2019, where it just doesn't matter, who their opponent was and anything except for the handful of good teams. The real question about sort of LSU Arkansas as a rivalry from an LSU standpoint, you can tell how an LSU season is going by their attitude towards the trophy. Because when the season is going bad and they beat Arkansas, there is a big rush over for the offensive lineman to go grab the heaviest trophy in college football and to lift it up.
Yeah.
And then there are years where we completely forget that the trophy exists and they just walk off the field and someone has to get a dolly over to take the card off from the maintenance staff. I think we're somewhere in between this year. I think two guys will go over and get the trophy, but not anybody else.
Any truth to the rumor that Brian Kelly's going to melt the trophy down and turn it into a gold chain for recruiting purposes? I didn't know.
I think he's getting one of those grills to impress the guys in Houston.
That's it. Okay.
So yeah, he's been inspired by Paul Wall and the Houston Astros getting their World Series grills too. So look forward to that, recruits. Moving on a little bit, so I think we've got a flavor. Another big purple team is playing this weekend against one of our teams that we follow. Texas is playing TCU in a game that could define Texas's season in a lot of ways. Jim, where are you with this game?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that Texas playing another team that thinks we're a rival with them, that I keep forgetting they exist until somewhere about the week before it gets started. I remember Tech more than I remember TCU, and I barely remember Tech. Interesting game, weird game. It's been a very hard to predict season for Texas. When I thought they would win, they lost, and vice versa. I don't know how much of a defining game it is. We wanted to see certain things. I think we've seen those things. I think we've seen improvement. They're bowl eligible, all that stuff. What it can do, though, is take this game to another plane, because chances are if you win this game and then you win out, you're going to be back in the Big 12 championship game doing that stupid double jeopardy thing that we do here.
Every game counts. Every game counts.
Every game counts, especially when,
some of them count so much you play them twice.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them are fantastic. I feel good about it. It's funny because I think much like what Brian said about Arkansas, Texas has better players than TCU. They maybe have less experienced players, and we do know that matters. One of the things I saw pointed out, and I know we talk on our baseball show about how home field advantage doesn't really matter in baseball, but I do think it matters in football. Mm-hmm. And this stadium is going to be filled to a capacity twice as big as any stadium they've played this year. And if we get the same level of energy that we saw with Alabama, which I think all of us on the show were shocked that we saw that level of energy out of a Texas crowd. We are a late arriving tea-sipping crowd for a reason. Then I think that you can disrupt TCU. And I think the other thing to that, Andy, is TCU has fallen behind in every single game, and had to come back to win it. How many times can you do that when you just don't have it anymore? And of course, they're playing a one team who gives up leads like it's going out of style. So I don't know, but that's where I'm at. I feel good.
Yeah, Isn't that the interesting part to this game, though, Jim? It really is, because Texas is, I mean, if you think of this as a horse race, Texas comes out of the gate. When you get to the back turn, Texas is out in the lead, and then Texas has struggled in the stretch of these games, whereas TCU's the horse that's yawning back there and stretching as the gate opens and just kind of lollygags until the sprint at the finish. I mean, this game, if I'm a Texas fan, this is one of those games that is lining up to where I need to have the Pepto-Bismol and the Tums sitting by for late in the third quarter.
But you don't use bourbon for that?
Well, yeah, it's got to wash it down with something. I mean,
I'm going to be at the game, and I have sweet tickets, so I don't know. I'll let you know how I'm doing.
So they're really good tickets. Where are they at? They're sweet.
Yeah, they're sweet.
Oh, cool.
It's easier.
You can't tape a flask to yourself, right? So you can.
No, I mean I'm going to have access to a full open bar.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah, there's no need to sneak in. And also, Brian, you may not be familiar. Other football stadiums, people don't bring flasks to throw, so it's not really a thing that you have to do in Austin.
Look, I'm going to quote here Bear Bryant, who said, LSU is different. I mean, lots of places they throw bourbon bottles at us, but at LSU they're always empty.
That's fair.
Yeah, what's amazing is the 7-year-olds who are throwing them, they have great arms. It's incredible.
Hey, raising them right, raising them young, marrying them sometimes if they're your cousin. Whatever happens in Louisiana stays in Louisiana, thank God, unless there's a hurricane, and then they end up in the Astrodome.
And look, the drills my father ran me through at 7 so I could throw those bourbon bottles really have paid off throughout life here. So it's really a lifelong skill, Scott.
Good workout. It's a good workout.
I think we have one other game that we follow, and you really shouldn't. A&M's playing Abilene Christian. We're really happy about first 2 basketball games this year. Buzz Williams is really primed for an NCAA tournament run, averaging 90 points a game. So things look good with this prep game heading into the tournament they're playing in next week. So that's all I have to say about that.
Hang on. From a football aspect,
what? No,
you can still win 3 games and go to Birmingham.
The feedball is over.
Birmingham is not out of the realm of the imagination.
Yeah, you guys have Auburn left.
Yeah, we're going to lose to a team that doesn't have a head coach this week, because when you're bottoming out, that's bottoming out. Auburn doesn't want to even show up to their own home game, and we're going to lose to them. So I'm not even planning on tuning in. I have my watch that will give me horrible results, periodically, whether I ask for them or not. I found out that I have at least 7 apps during the baseball season that tell me when the Astros lose. Only one that shows me a win. I'm not sure how that setting goes. The losses always felt worse for some reason. No, I hope that we have Connor Wigman back so he can get a second start and get some meaningful reps this week on the road. But I don't know. I think he's cleared for the flu, but the team is still suffering the after effects of all that. We still have a host of offensive linemen out with injury for the year. We still have a banged up defense. We still have Jimbo Fisher calling plays. None of that's a recipe for winning football in 2022. So I'm not looking forward to this weekend. I think we pull out a game against UMass next week, and then we have to play LSU. Who actually has something to play for. That's not usually been a good recipe for us. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks, but no, I'm at the point of looking forward to basketball season. And for an A&M fan to say that, that's saying something, because it's not our game.
We're looking forward to basketball season at this point too. Let's be honest.
Are you talking about? Are you kidding me? We had baseball signing day was pretty good. I mean, come on now.
Schlossnagle plays Seattle 98 days at Bluebell Park, so I'm looking forward to that. Might get some tickets.
This is the worst case of SEC basketball fever I've ever seen, because you're actually looking forward to it, and you're probably going to lose to Abilene Christian because, well, hashtag SEC basketball fever.
Hey! I realize you guys have been through a tough stretch at LSU with that, but back-to-back Elite Eights, fellas, let me tell you, and ranked top 10 already.
I don't know what the Elite Eight is, but that sounds good.
But as an Arkansas fan, we are absolutely accustomed in October to stop completely caring about football and look forward to basketball, because we're usually 1-4 by that point. So this year at 5-4 or whatever we are, it's not too bad. Cool.
Mm-hmm. And look, while I'm happy one day to talk about the fact that Tommy Tanks transferred to LSU, they have the best recruiting class in the country coming into the baseball team this year, and the future #1 draft pick. More importantly, LSU has Harold Perkins playing defense for him, who is a freshman, 5-star freshman out of Houston. I was really worried about getting him in recruiting last year, and then after
Fell
he
asleep,
signed
guys. Somebody was talking about basketball.
on the family live stream, they were doing it the second. His whole family was doing a second line after he announced he's going to LSU. So that was a good sign that they were going to get him anyway. And well, he may be one of the best defensive players in the SEC right now. He will be the best defensive player in the SEC by his junior year, 2 years from now.
I suspect this is the most basketball we'll speak until March.
Oh, there's darkness after bowls.
Not if Abilene Christian beats A&M, buddy. We're going to be talking a little basketball.
All right, let's move to some happier times. I didn't prep anybody for this, but we're going to wrap up real quick with I'm not allowed to do Mount Rushmore because Jim's already threatened testicular torture if anybody does that.
I think I just said I'd rather do it, but okay, sure.
No, that's fine. I knew what you meant, soldier. Happy thoughts. Real quickly off the top of your head, what's your favorite play from your college team that you've ever seen?
Ooh.
And I know Scott has something queued up, so we'll let him go first.
Yeah,
but
honestly,
follow the edge. We're about to wrap up.
For a Razorback fan, it's 4th and 25. 4th and 25, pass to Hunter Henry, and as he's falling out of bounds, 10 yards short, he laterals the ball backwards in a very heads-up way. It bounces into the hands of Alex Collins, and Alex Collins, he who has more shakes than Sonic at happy hour, weaves his way through the Ole Miss defense for a 31-yard rumbling, bumbling, stumbling first down on 4th and 25. The Hogs go on to score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, and leave Oxford quiet at night. Loved it.
This is Alex Collins is the star. Well, is one of the characters in my favorite recruiting story because his mother stole the letter of intent so that he would not go to Arkansas, which whatever sort of family problems he has, that it got aired so publicly always made me sympathetic to him. So I was always happy for him as a person that he was successful as a player, except when he played LSU.
That's absolutely true. He's from South Florida, and Mom didn't want him going to Arkansas. They went and found Dad, and Dad signed the recruiting letter. That is a true story.
All right, I'll go ahead and go next because I know Jim's still thinking there, and I've sprung it on him early.
Oh, I'm not. I'm done thinking.
Yeah, we all know this one. I think for Texas. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean it's easy, so I'll let him think of a good story. There's a few that I would go through for mine, but and this will tell you a little bit about A&M fans that we love defense. There's a number of touchdowns that we like through our through our fandom. There's a number of winning moments in conference championships, not in 30 years, but before that. But the thing that cemented A&M football for me happened, 32 years ago now, and it's called The Hit. And if you've never looked it up, you can still find it on YouTube, but it was A&M versus TCU, and I'll do that in honor of Jim playing TCU this week. Little known tight end, who was really little known after this, came across the middle on Quentin Coriat on a screen pass. And Coriat hit him in a way that would be completely illegal in 2022, but hit him so solidly and so hardly, not spearing, just bodied him up, broke his jaw in two places, separated him from the ball, and knocked him out. And there were legitimately people at the stadium that day that thought he was dead because he hit the ground and did not move for several minutes. And it, to this day, is still in every one of the highlight reel packages that they do pregame at A&M. To have something just known as The Hit, but it was just shoulder to this guy's body and just knocked him just out. And that's with the height of the wrecking crew, everything RC Slocum had built up from that defense. It was a super happy time. And that was back when we were, again, winning conference championships and not losing home games, which doesn't happen anymore. So that's what I like to think about on my way to bed after things like last Saturday. Let's go to Brian with LSU, who probably has more relevant memories.
Yeah, I will pick a play from 2019 because I'm an LSU fan. So we believe the world begins and ends in 2019. It actually replaced a play from 1990 against A&M, but I will skip that. In the Alabama game, LSU is doing very well in the second quarter. They're able to get a late touchdown. Alabama gets the ball back with like 30 seconds left on the clock, and instead of just kneeling it out and going out, they're like, we have to score more points against this team to win. So they send Tua back to throw. He throws an interception. After the interception, Alabama, with all the grace that we expect from them, their center goes and knocks over a celebrating LSU player 15 more yards, puts the ball on the 13-yard line. With 9 seconds left, LSU has 1 play to score a touchdown. And they come up with a play that is, they send Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield on a flag route. He is wide open in the Alabama end zone. It puts LSU up by 20. It's the moment I knew, like, we're going to win this game. And if we beat Alabama, we're going to win the national championship. So my favorite play, it was a play of, not just great timing, but also we have one play and we're going to come with a play that they haven't seen and that we can execute because, well, we have the smartest quarterback in college football. And my favorite LSU play.
All right, let's wrap up with the Vin Chung story. I'm sorry, Jim. I didn't want to.
Shotgun. Back to throw. Vince looks under pressure. You took it in one. Vince to the 5. Good.
All right, we're good.
Well, yeah, but
any commentary on that, or
what was that? I mean,
I had a full erection when it happened. I started celebrating when.
Did you see a doctor afterwards?
No.
Let me say this is a former right tackle, Justin Blaylock, who was playing right tackle on that play, had a great play. He identified that the outside guy wasn't going to blitz, came in, had a knockdown block on the inside guy running through that. So it's the Justin Blaylock play.
No, I mean, it was a great night, and it was a stressful night, and it was I was at a watch party. I can do that better with football than baseball, and we were celebrating before he even scored. But I remember up there, and my wife is a massive Longhorn fan, and a friend brought his wife, and she's not into sports, so she kept talking. And when USC went up by 2 scores, I looked at her and said, there are 7 other rooms in this house, and you can have that conversation. And then they all looked at me like I was rude, so I left. And so I went and sat downstairs for the 2 quarters that followed it. But nope, that's the play. That's it.
All right. I think Jim being put in timeout is probably where we end that this week. This has been Yell Fight Sooie. I'm Andy Tomchesson. That's Scott McIntyre. That was James Christopher with his erection. And joining us today, thank you, Brian Arbor, for being our guest. We'll be back next week with the results of Abilene Christian versus A&M and some other football games.
Y'all Fight Sooie is part of the Let's Get To network. Y'all Fight Sooie is produced by Twitchy Dolphin Media.